What is going on? It's Braedon Flynn, one of the contributors here at Film Supply Club. Today we're going to be doing a video on the zone system and how to expose black and white film. So I'm going to be shooting Kodak 400 Tri-X, and I'm going to be rating it at 320 just because I want to give it a little bit more light, and for the years that I've been shooting it, it definitely needs, I'd say 320 is a good rating for this. Other people might disagree, but that's what I am going to do. The zone system can be one of those things that's really confusing, it's daunting, maybe you've never even heard of it. What the zone system is a way to figure out how to expose your film intentionally in a way where you are actually intentionally placing the areas of the darkest part of the photo to the areas of the brightest part of the photo. So let me just make it really, really simple for you. You've got a zone from 0 to 10. 0 would be the blackest part of your image, where 10 is the whitest part of your image, and everything in between. But what we're trying to do is we are intentionally placing where we want the middle gray. Every meter, like an incident meter or a meter like this, what the reading is giving you is your middle gray. So now you can place it. So this is what we're doing. I'm gonna walk you through that. We're gonna go look at some other, like some things that I'm taking pictures of and show you how I'm reading it and then how I'm getting the exposure and how I'm taking the photo. We were driving by and I saw this building that has this sign in it, and looking I'm more attracted to things that are a little bit old. Living in Orange County, most things are new. And so this is Old Town Orange, which is only about 100 years old, but there's still some cooler old buildings that they've kept as like historical buildings and they're not allowed to redo. And so we're gonna be looking for those. What's tricky about this is if I shot it straight on, I'm not gonna see the sign. Now I've got the walk sign, which is there. I had to move the detour sign because that wouldn't have looked good in the photo. But because we've got heavy traffic, I'm gonna have to wait for all the cars to go by, and I'm gonna have to shoot in the middle of the street to sort of get the angle of the building that I want, that shows not straight on. I wanna get more of like, you get the three-dimensional look to it. And with this spot meter, we're gonna be giving a reading and figuring out where I want to place the different areas of the photo in regards to how it's going to expose. So the side of the building over here, this is at about a 14. The brightest area up on top, we're at a 17.2. The sign is closer to a 15, 14. The shade underneath, we're down to like 13 into the 12s. And then we've got sort of 16s down on the ground. The darkest area are those trees back there, which is sort of at 11. So we're saying 11, 12. So now, to make the exposure, I know 17 is the brightest area of my photo. And so these numbers here, okay, if I put the 17 at the middle gray, the brightest area would show up as the most neutral gray in the photo, but I don't want that. I want that to be the brightest area, and I still want to be able to see detail in those trees. So I'm gonna put those trees in zone 3. And that was at a 12. So if I put the 12 down at 3, that puts my 14 at middle gray, which was also sort of the side of the building over here, which that looks pretty average to me. And let's see how it goes. That's a good frame. I actually want to shoot it up a little higher. Also going to shoot it at 60th just to be safe. So what's going to be cool about this frame, and just for the example of what we're doing, is there is some very dark areas of this photo and then there's some very light areas of this photo. I probably wouldn't take a picture of this if I was really trying to take an amazing picture because the light is not right on the building, but we're working with what we have, and this is an example to show you how to expose with a light meter, with a spot meter. What's most important really is where your blacks are. With film, especially color negative film, I'm shooting black and white, I'm shooting Kodak Tri-X, but with color negative film, your highlights really, really retain. And so what you're really trying to do is expose for your shadows. And so you're trying to figure out, where do I want the darkest part of my frame? And for me, it's these windows. Like the sign is lighter than the windows. I definitely want to see the detail on the sign. The windows, for me, they could go black. But so what I'm going to end up doing is putting the windows as somewhere between zone 2 and 3. Zone 2, I'll keep saying it, zone 2, it'll be almost as black as it gets. You would see like the tiniest cracks So you're seeing a very, very little bit of detail, where zone 3 is dark, but you see all of the detail in zone 3. So we're looking at here, 10 is the reading I'm getting on the windows. The bricks are closer to 11. The white on the building in the sun, that is up at the 14, 15 level. So 10, this is what the reading I'm getting for those windows, where I want them to be the blackest area. So if I take this 10 down to zone 2, now it puts zone 13. This is now middle gray and up at the 15s. So this gives total white up here at 18, which we're not getting in the frame, but let's go. I'm gonna look at the the sky. The sky is closer to that. It's a 16. So that puts us right up there, where we're still gonna get a little bit of detail in the sky. And so it's gonna, and as a black and white image, it's not gonna be totally white. It's gonna be sort of a light gray, which is what we want, because we don't want it to go totally white. And so now we have this here, and our areas of the window are gonna be all the way down at zone 2. So now what I do, I look on here, is I go, okay, I could shoot at 250 f11, I could shoot 125 f16, I could shoot, if I wanted 5.6 at 1,000, so I'm gonna shoot at 125 at 16. So now let's probably shoot this building. So the trickier part in this photo is the darkest area. We definitely want to see detail because there's people there, and then I don't want the whole front of the store to go black. This is not the best time of day to be shooting this building, but again, we're here. And so what I'm gonna do is probably put definitely like zone 3, maybe zone 4 is what's gonna happen for this. And then there's a pretty big dynamic range because this sign is bright. We're at the EV is 17 for the sign, sort of 16 for the sky, and then down here we're at 10 for inside the building. So from 10 to 17, that's 7 stops. So here's my shadow. This is where the people are sitting. This is where the windows are. And if I brought this to down here, the thing that I've got to be careful of is this is my sign at 17. So now we're getting up to the deadly whites area up here, and I don't want this to completely disappear. So we've got to sort of smudge it a little bit, and so this 10 is going to be down on the 2s and the 3s, and now our exposure is at any of these little levels here. And so I've got my film, I'm at 320. I think that's what we're going to end up doing. So 125 f11. Gotta get the stuff out of the frame you don't want. Walking from that corner just down the street here, found this really cool truck. What I like about it, not only is it just a cool color, a cool truck, but the light is hitting it, the sun is directly in front of us, hitting straight on the front of it. And what's happening now is like there's a gradient of light that's happening all the way down the back of the truck. So it's the brightest here, and it sort of like rolls down. It goes from really bright down to like sort of even, but you can see the light as it's changing down there. So we've got the black in the tires, we've got the bright there, and see how the ratings look. So looking at this real quick, the brightest area, we're at sort of a 15.5. Down in the middle of the truck, we're at a 12 over here, 13, and then it goes down. Yeah, so we sort of like 15, and then this whole thing is sort of in the 12, 13 range, and it starts brighter here and it gets darker there. And then we've got these tires, which are at a 9. So 15 to 9, that's a good, what, 7 stops? 6 stops, check the math. Seeing if you're paying attention. So, what did I say, we had 15. Putting that up at sort of, I want to have that zone 8. So we're gonna have this as the brightest part of the frame. And that puts the 12 as middle gray, which this sort of makes sense. So the side of this truck is in regards to like the brightest to the darkest, is sort of like the middle zone of the photo. And then that's gonna bring the tires down here at a 9. We're gonna be at zone, in between zone 2 and 3. So they're gonna be almost black, but we're gonna still see some detail in there. So if you don't have one of these, which I'm guessing most of you don't, but if you do have one of these or an incident meter of some sort, you can basically download a light meter app and use it this way. Everyone's got one of these in their pocket, so you don't have an excuse not to use a light meter, and this is just helpful. So what we're doing, again, we're trying to find the darkest area to the lightest area, but instead of giving you an EV number, this is actually showing your exposure and what that would be at your f-stop or your shutter speed. So you can choose to have one of those two things fixed. I like to fix my aperture because that's what I typically am controlling, and then it's going to give me my different shutter speeds. So again, you're going to look at the brightest areas. This is going to be at about 116 or 1600, and then sort of what we decided was middle gray before. This is in here at 1/500. So 500, so we got 1600, basically 1500 to 500 down in here, and then our tires, which were dark too, that's down at like a 60th, 30th, a 60th. So that's a pretty big dynamic range, but knowing that this is pretty much our middle gray, we could be this here at f8 and 500. And that's pretty close to what we were at over there. So for this shot, what we're trying to just figure out is where are highlights, where are shadows, where do we place them in the photo, and I'm going to do that by looking at my EV rating at the brightest part of the frame, down to the darkest part of the frame, and really what I would overemphasize what you should be concerned with is your shadows and where you want to see detail in those shadows. So what I'm going to be doing is looking at the part in the shade up on that awning or part of the roof, whatever you want to call that, and I'm going to put that at somewhere around zone 4, which is going to put the sky at probably middle gray. So looking here, we've got sort of almost 18, 17 for the brightest part of the building. The sky is at about 15, and that shade area is about 14, 12, 13. It's sort of like there's a bunch, we're closer to about 13 in there. So we've got 13, 14, 17 is sort of the numbers that we're really, really concerned with. And now that's gonna just put us, so I'm gonna place that 14 at about zone 4. That puts the sky at middle gray, and that puts our 17, 18 still in a range where we're gonna see details. And I think it'll come out all right. Really hope that simplified the zone system for you, which it can seem to be a confusing thing, but if you think about it, all we're trying to do is figure out how we're placing our blacks, our whites, our middle grays, and getting a good exposure. So you have control, and that's the thing that I keep trying to encourage you in these videos, is to use a meter so that you can actually be intentional with how you're exposing your shots. And if you have questions about that, please leave them below. You can get any of your film, the gear, we'll have links to all that stuff below. But yeah, here for you as a resource, and want to know what you want to learn about, leave those comments below. But until then, stay safe, keep shooting film, and have fun in the process. We'll see you around.